After so many tantalizing months, finally, Sonic Superstars has released. And, well, it's a mixed bag. Unfortunately, Sonic Superstars, to some, is not the Mania 2 we were hoping for. There are some kinks and issues with the game. But for me, personally, it's my second or third favorite classic Sonic game. I had a blast with this game, and we're gonna get into those reasons now. This is the official Sonic Superstars review from Mr.NeedleMouse. Alright, let's get this out here and now. I think that the OST of Sonic Superstars is actually really good. I don't think it's as good as Mania, not by a long shot, but there are some really good tracks. I mean, in fact, I'm gonna play some of my favorite ones for you right now. My favorites are Speed Jungle Act 1, Lagoon City Act 2, Press Factory Act 1, and Egg Fortress Act 2. Those are my favorite ones. Those are the ones I enjoyed the most. And personally, I love the OST of this game. It's great. Yes, there are some pretty bad songs in the OST that just are lackluster or just outright bad. But this is a great step up from Sonic 4's music, and T-Lopes just makes everything sound better. So overall, the OST is not as bad as people say it is, if I'm honest with you. Now that we got probably the most divisive part out, let's talk about all the other stuff about, well, Sonic Superstars. Starting with, of course, the controls of the game. This was one of the biggest concerns when Sonic Superstars was announced. Will it play like a Genesis game? Will it have Mania's physics? And I can say without a doubt, it feels like a Genesis game. It feels like a classic Sonic game with momentum. And honestly, it controls really well. I enjoyed playing as all 5 characters. And while the controls and physics aren't one for one with the Genesis, they still feel very, very accurate and very good, in fact. I can barely tell the difference when playing a Genesis game next to Superstars. Great controls, they did nail that very well. When making my hopes and dreams for Sonic Superstars video, I really thought that not all of the Emerald powers would be fun. But ironically, I had lots of fun with all the Emerald powers. All of them were really fun. I really liked all of them. Every single one of them felt like it had time to shine. Even Slow, which was the only one I was not excited for, had some time to shine in my gameplays. And I really enjoy playing with all the powers. It's really fun. Whether it's using Ivy to get up to higher locations, or using Bullet to cheese bosses, or using Slow to help me platform a little better, or using Water to gain up heights and waterfalls, or blast through Lagoon City much faster, it was just so much fun to play through. I really enjoyed the Emerald powers, and they're a great addition to Sonic Superstars, and one that I really hope returns in the next classic Sonic game. Well, now that we're on the topic of the Emerald powers, we do have to talk about the special stages, and I believe these are pretty lackluster. Not simply just because of their presentation, it's more that they're really easy. They're not anything too difficult, and I don't know if that's because Mania special stages people found too difficult or anything, but these special stages are a little too easy. Like, I found myself getting these emeralds first try most of the time, where in Mania, I remember actually struggling to get the emeralds, and that's what they should be. There should be rewards. They shouldn't be like insanely difficult to get. If I had to rank these special stages, I'd say they're one of the weaker ones, right down there with Sonic City and Sonic 1. 2s, 3 and Knuckles, and Manias are still much more superior to the ones in Superstars. Not that they're outright bad or not fun, they're just too easy, and that takes away the whole point of a Chaos Emerald being, you know, this very difficult thing to get. So overall, these special stages are pretty bad. The multiplayer is another thing that Sonic Superstars adds, something we have never seen before in a previous Sonic game, and I gotta say the multiplayer holds up pretty well. It's actually, yeah, it's pretty fun. I thought it would be a nightmare considering how fast Sonic characters are, but no, it actually works pretty well. The camera zooms out pretty well and gives you an encompassing view when the characters are far away from each other. And if your character does go off screen, you can just click X or whatever the bottom buttons are on the other controllers to have your characters jump back in onto the screen. So overall, this multiplayer was handled actually pretty well, a lot better than I would have envisioned. But this isn't the only multiplayer aspect Sonic Superstars brings. It also brings an online battle mode, which you have to battle across different types of, battles. You collect different things in levels, you race with characters. It's pretty fun, it's just okay. I never found myself too engrossed with it, probably because, the servers aren't up yet and everything. But overall, it's just okay. I didn't find it that fun. It's just okay. Nothing I would genuinely come back to and play like over and over again. It's just okay. The bosses in Sonic Superstars are handled actually not that bad. Honestly, the bosses are pretty good, all of them. There's one thing that I don't like, and that takes away from that classic Sonic-y feel, and that's the damage boosting. In almost every single previous classic Sonic game, you can damage boost through, you can get hit by the enemy, lose all your rings, but pick up a ring and continue damage boosting while the invincibility frames are up. Sonic Superstars opts to get rid of that, and while yes, it makes the bosses a lot more challenging and less, just piss easy, it still takes away from that classic Sonic-y feel, which is a little unfortunate. But these bosses were overall really fun. Act 1 bosses with the being giant mechs that Eggman creates, and Act 2 being Eggman himself, it's a great thing that they brought back from Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and it makes for really fun bosses. I had fun with almost every single boss, and the only problem I could really point out with them is that they dragged on for a little too long at times, which is quite unfortunate. Alright, let's talk about the multiple playable characters in Sonic Superstars. Sonic Superstars brings to the table a whopping 5 playable characters from the get-go. Well, almost anyway. Really, from the get-go, you can play as 4 characters. You have Sonic the Hedgehog, of course, who has the drop dash and spin dash. You have Tails, who can fly, Knuckles, with his gliding and climbing, and Amy, who has her double jump and her hammer drop dash thing that she had in Sonic Origins Plus. Except now, instead of, it stopping after a short period of time, she can indefinitely hold her hammer, which is a little broken in my opinion, but I guess Amy's the really easy mode now in Sonic, which it's okay, I don't mind that. But it gets really interesting when you beat the game for the first time. You see something that I was not expecting whatsoever. Trip's story. That's right, this is the first time we've had multiple playable stories ever in a classic Sonic game, and for the first time since god dang Sonic Adventure, or sorry, Sonic 06, since we've had that, which is kind of insane. And I gotta commend them for doing that. It's really, really cool. And Trip is a really fun character to play as. Trip reminds me of Espio from Knuckles' Chaotix. She can climb on every single outcropping, whether it being a cliff or an upside down area. She can literally climb on anything, making her one of the more broken Sonic characters. And she's really fun to play as. She also has a double jump, and yeah, she's really cool. Trip is also handled as a hard mode in Sonic Superstars. Her story is a lot harder than the regular characters, and as someone who loves challenge, I found it so much fun. Speaking of the levels and difficulty, let's actually talk about our 12, or rather 11 zones in Sonic Superstars. There are 11 full zone stages in Sonic Superstars, some of them being 3 actors, while some are only a singular act. And one 12th zone that is the final boss of the game, only unlocked once you beat the game as one of the 4 core characters, and then you beat the game as Trip. Now, let's actually talk about the 11 actual zones before talking about the final zone. Bridge Island is iconic to Sonic Superstars. It is the image of Sonic Superstars. When you think of the game, you think of Bridge Island zone. And for good reason. The zone is very fun. It's introduces you perfectly to the game. It's an absolutely beautiful zone. And I love the transition between daytime to sunset. It's a beautiful zone. Speed Jungle is the next zone, and what a blast of a zone. Amazing upbeat music, just blasting through the jungle, rail grinding. It's such a rush of speed. It's a beautiful zone, one of my favorites in fact. And this is our first 3-act zone. At the end of Speed Jungle, Act 1, you have the choice between playing Act Sonic or Act 2. Choosing to play Act Sonic, you are forced to play as Sonic in the next act, an act that is specifically custom tailored for the blue blur. These character-specific acts will return in other stages, of course. Sky Temple is next, and it brings us one of the 2 only act stages. These stages have one huge 9-minute act, and honestly, this was a great zone. I had lots of fun in it. It was a really wonderful zone. I really liked it. In fact, this zone gave me very Windy Valley vibes from Sonic Adventure, which I really liked actually. Then, of course, we have Pinball Carnival, one of my favorite zones in the game. It is just a blast to go through. Not only is Pinball Carnival Act 1 the classic return of pinball/casino stages, which I've always loved, Act 2 becomes a haunted carnival, with the enemies in the level dressing up as ghosts, and it's an absolutely hilarious and amazing thing that I absolutely love. Lagoon City, or is it Lagoon City, is next, and what a wonderful zone. It genuinely feels like Hydrocity in the best ways possible. I had lots of fun on this stage. I was at first worried because water levels in Sonic don't usually mix, and we haven't had an original water stage in a classic Sonic game in ages at this point. But they nailed it this time. Lagoon City is an amazing stage, and Act 2's music is just peak. And at the end, you have Act Amy, where Amy helps Trip get through the stage, and it's an adorable little gimmick and an adorable little stage that I absolutely adored. A 1-act formula returns in Sand Sanctuary, a sandy level that is absolutely amazing. I was afraid, considering, the last time I got a sandy stage was Sandopolis in Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and no matter how much I love Sonic 3 and Knuckles, I can recognize how much Sandopolis sucks. But Sand Sanctuary is an awesome zone, and really makes me excited for sand zones to come back in a Sonic game, as we haven't seen one actual sand zone in a long time. Press Factory comes next, and what a gritty yet amazing level. Press Factory is an awesome level. I love how it starts in day but ends in nighttime, and it's a grueling dark night, which is so cool, and the zone itself is built with an awesome gimmick in mind. It is one of my favorite zones in the game, and the only thing that I can really say, and I really wished it wasn't, was the fact that the music in Act 1 and Act 2 suck. The melody itself is awesome, but the Genesis sound font just ruins the song, unfortunately. Next comes Golden Capital, and I'm just gonna say it here, this is the worst zone in Sonic Superstars. It's just not fun to play through. The music sucks, and even Act Knuckles can't save this stage from just being a disappointment. I don't like this stage whatsoever. It's just plainly the most boring one out of all of them, and it's really sad because a golden themed Sonic level is not something we've ever seen before, and it's wasted, unfortunately. It's a little disappointing. Remember how I said there's only 2 one-act stages? Well, guess what? I lied to you, and you believed me. You dumbass. Next comes Cyber Station, a really cool zone in my opinion. It is the return of the one-act formula from Sand Sanctuary and Sky Temple Zone, and it is so much fun. The cyber gimmicks in Cyber Station is so much fun, man. I love this zone. This is one of the best zones in the game, and the music is fabulous. Frozen Base Zone comes next, and as an Ice Cap stan, I was elated that we were getting a snow level again. I mean, it's been so long since we have another snow level. I was so ecstatic, but my disappointment is immeasurable. It just is immeasurable. The thing is, Act 1 is fun. The music still sucks, but it's fun, and it makes me feel like Ice Cap, and I love that. But then Act 2 becomes this really weird bullet hell thingy multiplayer or whatever it is, and like, it is so disappointing that they took away from me another snow level. Like, yes, we still have the Tails extra act, but they took away an Act 2 of a snow level. Come on, guys. And finally comes Egg Fortress, a menacing and badass zone with one of the best OSTs in the game. Awesome zone. It is like Death Egg, Titanic Monarch vibes, and it's great. It's a great zone. While the music does not beat Titanic Monarch and doesn't beat Titanic Monarch overall, this is my second favorite final zone from any classic Sonic game. It definitely beats the Sonic 3 Death Egg. It was so much fun. The story of Sonic Superstars tries to do something grand, and, well, it kind of fails at times. This is where the real spoilers start, so if you want to avoid spoilers, either click off the video or skip this section. If you didn't watch the prologue for Sonic Superstars, the story is like really confusing. Like, the final boss of the game is a whole ass dragon, and you're kind of like, okay, but where'd that come from? Like, why is it here for the entire time? And it's kind of explained in the Sonic prologue animation. The dragon seems to be like the central thing, the central power when it comes to the Emerald powers. And you know, it's kind of weird, kind of like, sure, why not? It's not like anything too cool, and I didn't find it anything too spectacular. But the story does tries to do something grand for the first time since Sonic 3 and Knuckles, and I can commend them for that. This is probably my second favorite classic Sonic story after Sonic 3 and Knuckles. Because, well, the other classic Sonic stories aren't anything to behold whatsoever. Now, before we talk about the final zone, let's talk about the cosmetics in Sonic Superstars. I find them a really cool addition. While I'm never going to use the Lego skins, the Rabbit skin was really cool, and I really hope they continue that trend and give more characters more skins. You know, apart from, you know, modern Amy getting her skin, I would love Sonic with the soap shoes, and Knuckles with his OVA hat. And just different outfits across Sonic's history. I'd love something like that. And come on, Sega, give us a Mr.NeedleMouse skin. I mean, it wouldn't take you that much. I mean, it'd be pretty cool, right? I'm not the only one who thinks that, right? Alright, let's talk about the final boss of Sonic Superstars. After playing through the entirety of Trip's story, beating the game, and then playing through the entirety of Sonic's story, beating both stories, you unlock Final Story, which is insane because we've never had that in a classic Sonic game before, and is a welcome addition, in fact. I don't really understand the final boss. Like, even with all the outside media, the whole dragon shtick is very confusing. I'm not really, like, too keen on what this thing is and why it exists and everything about it. I did hear that this is a scrapped boss from Sonic 3 and Knuckles, which is kind of cool, but overall, it's just an okay boss. I mean, it's not as good as Egg Reverie in Sonic Mania, I would say. This is, in fact, a worse boss, and Doomsday Zone solos both bosses still to this day. So, it's just okay. It's not an improvement. And honestly, after what Frontiers did with Super Sonic, I don't think anything will be able to top that. So, it's just an okay boss. Nothing too spectacular, nothing too grand. And it does close the game on at least a somewhat okay note. It's okay. And that's pretty much Sonic Superstars, a wonderful classic Sonic game that has brought me hope for the future of classic Sonic. While this game does not top Mania, it comes pretty damn close to it. This is my third favorite classic Sonic game, behind Sonic the Knuckles and Sonic Mania. And honestly, I commend Sonic Team and Arzest for doing that. This is a great game. My final score for Sonic Superstars is an 8 out of 10. The game does have some problems with it. The bosses can be lackluster and can drag on for too long at times. The final boss is a little lackluster. The OST isn't as good as I would have hoped it was, and some levels are pretty weak. But overall, what a wonderful addition to classic Sonic, and I cannot wait for the future of Sonic's younger counterpart, because people are right when they say Sonic Superstars is the Sonic Frontiers of classic Sonic. Because if they continue with this trend, the next classic Sonic game will top Mania, and maybe, for the first time ever, it will top Sonic 3 and Knuckles as my favorite 2D platformer of all time. But with that, thank you guys all so much for watching. I hope you're having a wonderful day wherever you are in the world, and I'll see you all next time. Bye.